Episode 166. By the time Han Li had pieced together the gist of what had happened, he had also noticed a few peculiarities from across the way. First, Han Li couldn't determine her approximate age from her stunning beauty. Her skin was smooth and delicate, like that of a woman in her 20s, yet her eyes and demeanor suggested someone in her 30s or 40s. The frivolous air that flickered between her brows made her seem like some spoiled young master. However, he was only at the mid-foundation establishment stage. That much was obvious at a glance. It was precisely why Han Li dared to stay. If he'd been at the late foundation establishment stage, Han Li would have had to reconsider whether to meddle in such a melodrama. Second, Han Li was already standing right there, yet Dong Shuner only gave him a cold glance before turning back to gaze adoringly at the flashy man, as if he were a complete stranger. That was definitely off.
Who are you? Another admirer of this young lady. Let me make one thing clear. Unless this young lady leaves of her own accord, no one is taking her from my arms.
The flamboyant man took one look at Han Li's unremarkable appearance and mere early foundation establishment cultivation, and a flicker of contempt crept into his eyes. Without a second thought, he lightly patted Dong Shuner her fragrant shoulder. Han Li, seeing how lightly the other regarded him, showed no trace of annoyance on his face. After glancing back and forth between Dong Shuner and the flamboyant man a few times, he suddenly barked out a command.
Who are you? Using mind control techniques on disciples of our 7 sects. That takes some nerve, doesn't it?
You're talking nonsense. This young lady and I are together by mutual consent. If you don't step aside, don't blame me for being ruthless.
It was only then that Yan Yu and Senior Wind Brother, who had also heard Han Li's words, finally understood. They immediately flanked the flamboyant man from both sides, their fury plain to see.
So this is why junior sister Dong suddenly ignored us as if bewitched. It was you who used some evil technique to confuse her. Release the spell now, or don't blame me when my purple light wave shows no mercy.
Exactly. I noticed something off too. Why would Miss Dong leave with a stranger like you for no reason? So you're a demon in disguise. Yan here will have to teach your clan a lesson on Miss Dong's behalf.
Feng and Yan each produced a magic tool, one a thin purple device, the other a short spear-like implement, clearly ready to strike.
The flamboyant man's face hardened as he faced their threats.
Overreaching.
A sense of unease stirred in Han Li's mind. Instinctively, he sensed this flamboyant man was extremely dangerous. His thoughts racing, he suddenly sent a booming whisper directly into Dong Shuner's ear.
Dong Shuner, look at what you've done. Aren't you afraid of being confined by Uncle Master Hong Fu?
Han Li's voice transmission went completely unnoticed by Yan Yu and Senior Brother Feng, but the flamboyant man seemed to sense something. He shot Han Li a glare, then quickly looked down at Dong Shuner. Dong Shuner's face suddenly twisted with terror. She wrenched herself free from the seductive man's embrace and stumbled back several steps. Then a flicker of bewilderment crossed her features, as if she were just now waking from a deep dream. Seeing this, Yan Yu and Senior Brother Feng were overjoyed. When they saw the flamboyant man, his face darkening, about to approach Dong Shuner again, they immediately stepped in without a second thought, placing themselves between Dong Shuner and the flamboyant man. There was no way they would let Dong Shuner, who had finally regained her senses, fall under his bewitching spell again. At that moment, Dong Shuner's mind was completely clear, but she seemed to have recalled something utterly terrifying. She dared not even glance at the flamboyant man again. Flustered, she rushed toward Han Li, then ducked behind him in a few quick steps, fully cutting off the man's furious glare. Dong Shuner's body trembled uncontrollably, her face a mask of terror. Where was the usual willful, spoiled girl now? The gaudy man's face had turned somewhat pale, His venomous gaze swept over Yan Yu and Senior Windbreaker, who stood blocking his path, before finally fixing on Han Li with a deathly stare. Seeing all three of them watching him with wary, guarded expressions, he knew that reclaiming Dong Xuaner today was no longer possible.
Dong Xuaner's mind is clear now. If these three can just hold them off for a while, that'll be enough time to deal with that demon. And if a fight breaks out, the chances of attracting other cultivators are high. I'd rather not be recognized here. But has there ever been a time when the fat was snatched from my jaws at the very end?
At that thought, her beautiful face twisted slightly.
This isn't over today. I've memorized the faces of all three of you, Tian Meng. You'd better watch yourselves.
With that, the gaudy man flashed with five-colored light, then transformed into a streak of radiance that shot off into the distance, leaving Han Li and the others staring at each other, dumbfounded. Back at the Feng Yu Inn where Han Li was staying, he and the other two listened as Dong Xuaner recounted how that flamboyant man had ensnared her.
I don't know why, but the moment my eyes met his, my head just went blank. I couldn't think of anything else. I just wanted to please him, to do anything for him, as if he were my destined master. I couldn't muster any will to resist. But I've never met this man before in my life. How can this be? I refuse to be anyone's slave.
As Dong Xuaner spoke, her face grew paler and paler. The feeling of being completely controlled by that handsome man, body and soul, had made her experience a terror far worse than death itself. As for Han Li, he exchanged a glance with the other two, and for a moment, none of them spoke.
That seductive man's mind control technique is far too powerful. If he were to use such a spell on the three of us, how could we possibly withstand it?
Everyone, don't worry. That charm technique of his may be formidable, but it shouldn't work on the three of us.
What? Got something to add, Junior Han?
It's obvious. If his charm technique could actually work on men, do you really think he would have let us off without using it, given that look of hatred he gave us before he left? The seducer simply didn't have enough magic power left to cast it again. But the way he faced the three of us, so utterly unafraid, that didn't look like someone running low on magic power. So I still think the first possibility is the most likely.
Upon hearing this, Senior Wind and Yan Yu both let out a sigh of relief.
Since he can't use that terrifyingly powerful charm on women, we've got nothing to fear. If it comes down to a straight fight of magic power and magic tools, we're not backing down.
Senior brother Han, if any female cultivator runs into him, she'd be under his control for life, wouldn't she? I really don't want that.
I won't even mention your admirers. But if you're looking for protection, I'm hardly the one you should be asking.
Han Li, of course, had no idea. Ever since he'd freed Dong Xuaner from that terrifying state of mental enslavement, she'd subconsciously grown somewhat dependent on him.
The moment she found herself in danger, she instinctively turned to him with that pleading look. Before Han Li could even respond, the other two, burning with jealousy, thumped their chests and declared they would guard Dong Xuaner closely over the next few days. No way would they let that fiend get near her again. Hearing them say that, Dong Xuaner did feel a bit more at ease.
With 2 Foundation establishment cultivators protecting me, I suppose there really isn't much to worry about. They only managed to control me because I let my guard down completely. Next time, I won't let them control me so easily.
With her spirits somewhat restored, Dong Xuaner was soon laughing and joking with the two of them again, turning her seductive charm up to the max and leaving them so bewitched they could barely tell north from south.
This Dong Xuaner's technique and that flashy man's charm art are cut from the same cloth, just hers isn't as domineering. Still, her fox spirit charm technique must be a very advanced form of enchantment, to be able to bewitch a man so completely, body and soul, without him even noticing. From what I can see, that's not one bit inferior to that seductive man's charm techniques. I'm no expert in the art of bewitchment, but I do know a thing or two about it. That eye technique, which every cultivator claims to master, is really just a basic form of mind-swaying magic. If two cultivators are far apart in magic power, locking eyes with the Heaven's Eye technique could cause one to lose their mental focus, leaving them vulnerable in battle. Other types of mind control spells also rely on a vast gap in magic power to forcibly seize control of the opponent's mind. Dong Xuan'er was a qi condensation initial stage cultivator, while the flashy man was at the mid-stage. By all logic, such a small gap in cultivation should never have allowed him to be subdued with just a single glance. Unless he was a core formation cultivator specializing in soul charming arts, that would still be somewhat plausible. But the look on that seductive man's face and the venomous expression he wore when he left, none of it seemed feigned. There's absolutely no way a core formation cultivator would pretend to be at Foundation establishment just to toy with us.
Only then did Han Li feel a measure of genuine relief. After all, he was still very mindful of the venomous look on that flamboyant man's face as he left. When he lifted his head from his thoughts, he caught sight of Dong Xuan'er flirting with those two again. Her pitiful act from moments ago had vanished without a trace. Seeing this, Han Li sighed quietly, then turned and headed back to his room. But just as Han Li's hand touched the wooden door, before he could even push it open, a man's booming voice suddenly rang out from outside the inn.
Guests of the inn, gather up. Tomorrow's treasure-grabbing tournament will be split into two groups. Our kingdom's cultivators assemble on the western peak of Yanling Fort, while cultivators from other nations gather on the eastern peak. Please be sure to arrive on time tomorrow morning.
Anyone who arrives late will be considered to have forfeited.
The voice repeated itself 3 times outside the inn before the speaker finally seemed to leave. Han Li was taken aback at first, but then he dismissed it, pushing open the door and heading back to his room. Separating the two nations' cultivators for the competition caught Han Li a bit off guard, but he didn't see anything wrong with it.
If the 7 sect cultivators competed alongside those from other nations, it would inevitably stir up no small amount of trouble. This kind of exclusionary mindset is the same everywhere. You could see it in that stare down at the tea house the other day.
Han Li thought as much, then sat cross-legged on his bed to cultivate for the night, preparing for the next day's treasure-grabbing competition. Meanwhile, in a certain residence within Yanling Fort, the strikingly handsome, eerie man sat on a wooden chair. Before him, several men and women were respectfully reporting something, and he listened with a blank expression.
A glint of sharp light flashed through his eyes from time to time, and for no apparent reason, he let out a cold laugh.